The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the sticky July dusk, shattering the low hum of shared stories and clinking beer bottles around the backyard fire pit. "What in God's name is this circus?" Karen Hargrove's voice sliced through the air, her perfectly coiffed blonde bob quivering with outrage as she stormed across the lawn in her pastel cardigan and pearls, clutching a clipboard like a shield. I froze mid-laugh, my hands still on Michael's knee, the weight of 20 pairs of eyes, hardened by sandstorms and IEDs, swiveling toward her, turning our fragile vigil into a powder keg one wrong word from exploding. I remember the exact moment the world tilted off its axis for me, back in the blistering heat of Fallujah, when a Humvee flipped and took half my squad with it. But that was a decade ago, a scar that never quite healed right. Tonight, under the sagging oaks of my cul-de-sac in suburban Atlanta, it was Jimmy's ghost doing the flipping. Jimmy Harlan, the kid from Tuscaloosa who could quote Hemingway between bursts of M4 fire and always saved the last cigarette for the guy shaking in the foxhole. We'd lost him to cancer last spring, sneaky and merciless, eating him from the inside out while he cracked jokes about trading his prosthetic leg for a beer tab. This memorial wasn't some stiff VFW hall affair with starched uniforms and forced salutes. It was us, me, Benjamin "Benny" Caldwell, and the ragged posse of brothers who'd clawed through the same hell, gathered raw and real, sharing scars and swigs under Georgia stars, because that's how Jimmy would have wanted it. No bullshit, just truth and a cold one. Michael shifted beside me on the weathered Adirondack chair, his thumb tracing a slow circle on my knuckles, a silent anchor in the storm Karen had just kicked up. We'd been together 3 years now, him with his easy southern drawl and those hazel eyes that crinkled like autumn leaves when he smiled. Me with my guarded heart finally cracking open after years of pretending I was just one of the guys in the Corps. He wasn't military, hell. He was a high school history teacher, all corduroy jackets and lesson plans on the Boston Tea Party, but he'd walked into my life like he'd been briefed on every minefield. We'd met at a dive bar off Peachtree Street. Me nursing a whiskey after a nightmare woke me screaming. Him buying a round for the vets at the end of the bar because his granddad had been Normandy 44. One conversation turned into coffee into stolen kisses in his Prius. And now here we were, building something solid amid the ruins. The fire crackled, spitting embers into the humid air, and 20 voices, gruff, laced with that post-tour rasp, fell silent as Karen planted herself at the edge of my patio, her sensible loafers sinking into the grass like accusations. "Benjamin Caldwell, I've had it up to here with your little gatherings," she spat, waving that clipboard like an indictment from on high. "The HOA bylaws are crystal clear. No more than 6 guests after 8 p.m., and certainly not this rabble trampling my rose bushes." Her eyes darted over us, narrowing at the cluster of men in faded camo hats and prosthetic limbs propped against coolers, at the rainbow pin glinting on Michael's lapel next to my dog tags. I could see the calculation flicker. Too many, too loud, too not like her. I stood slowly, the ache in my bad knee, a souvenir from that Fallujah rollover, flaring like a warning, but I kept my voice steady, the way you do when de-escalating a Haji checkpoint gone south. "Karen, this ain't a party. It's a memorial. For Jimmy. You remember him? The guy who waved at you from his wheelchair last 4th of July." The posse murmured, a low rumble like distant thunder, and I felt Michael's hand squeeze mine behind my back. Steady, always steady. But Karen didn't back down. Her lips pursed into that schoolmarm line, the one that said she'd already drafted the fine in her head. "Memorial or not, rules are rules," she huffed, flipping open her clipboard to point at some invisible infraction. And frankly, Benjamin, ever since you and your friend moved in, the neighborhood's gone to pot. Barbecues turning into beer bashes. Flags at half-mast for weeks. It's unseemly. The word hung there, laced with that southern passive-aggressive venom. The kind that implies you're not just breaking covenants but breaking some unspoken code of who gets to belong in Willow Creek Estates. Michael rose then, his chair scraping soft against the stone, and laid a gentle hand on my shoulder. Ma'am, with respect, we're just honoring a brother. If the noise is an issue, we'll keep it down. But this, he gestured to the circle, to the photo of Jimmy propped on a stump, grinning with that lopsided smirk. This matters. His voice was calm, teacherly, the one he used on rowdy sophomores debating the Emancipation Proclamation. But I saw the flash in his eyes, the protective fire he hid so well, and it twisted something deep in my chest. Love, yeah, but laced with the fear that one day, some clipboard-wielding busybody would make him regret tying his starched shirts to my battered duffel. The posse shifted. Uneasy guys like Tommy Ruiz, who'd lost an eye in Kandahar and now ran a auto shop with one good lid. Or Lyle Preacher Hayes, who quoted psalms over poker but wept silent when the PTSD hit. We'd all come back changed, piecing civilian lives from shrapnel. And Jimmy had been the glue, the one who dragged us to brunches and bad movies, who'd toasted my coming out over lukewarm MRE coffee with a simple "'bout time. Benny, world needs more honest hearts. Now, with his ashes scattered in the Chattahoochee last month, this backyard send-off was our way of saying goodbye without the pomp that never fit us. Karen's gaze swept the group again, lingering on the couples. Yeah, more than one. Because war strips away pretenses, leaves you grabbing for whatever humanity's left, and her nose wrinkled like she'd smelled something off. Well, if it's a memorial, why the theatrics? Balloons? That banner. She jabbed at the hand-painted sheet strung between the oaks. Jimmy Harlan, hero, hustler, heart of gold. Tommy's kid had done it. All primary colors and misspelled Posse as Posey. But it was perfect, raw as we were. I stepped forward, close enough to smell her Chanel No. 5 clashing with the mesquite smoke. Theatrics? Karen, this is family. Blood, sweat, and the kind of bonds you can't bylaws your way out of. My pulse thrummed. That old combat tick where adrenaline sharpens everything to a razor's edge. Michael's fingers tightened on my arm. A whisper of easy, Ben. But I was already seeing red, not rage. Exactly. But the deep burn of defending what little ground I'd claimed since mustering out. She straightened, chin lifting like she'd won some invisible debate. Family or not, I'll be bringing this up at the next board meeting. Consider yourself warned. With that, she pivoted on her heel, clipboard tucked under arm, and marched back to her McMansion 2 doors down, the screen door of her life slamming shut behind her. The air hung heavy for a beat, then Tommy let out a low whistle, popping another Pabst. Damn, Benny. Your neighborhood's feistier than a camel spider. Laughter rippled, tentative at first, then full-throated, the kind that pushes grief back an inch. Michael pulled me down beside him, his lips brushing my temple. You okay? He murmured, voice low enough for just us. I nodded, but the knot in my gut said otherwise. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was the face of every sidelong glance I'd gotten since the discharge papers, every "thank you for your service" that felt like pity wrapped in patriotism. And with Michael, soft-spoken, bookish Michael, who'd chosen me despite the 3 a.m. wake-ups and the walls I still built, I couldn't afford to let her turn our haven into a battlefield. As the night deepened, stories flowed like the fire's glow. Lyle recounted Jimmy's first hookup stateside, the awkward fumble in a motel off I-20 that ended with them both laughing till dawn. Ruiz pulled out his phone, queuing up Jimmy's terrible rendition of Sweet Home Alabama from some long-ago karaoke night. I leaned into Michael, his heartbeat steady against my side, and for a moment, the world righted itself. But in the shadows, doubt flickered. How long could we hold this ground before the Karens of the world mapped it for demolition? The next morning dawned muggy, the kind of Atlanta summer that sticks to your skin like regret. I woke to Michael humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes in that threadbare apron his sister had embroidered with world's okayest chef. The smell of butter and batter pulled me from the tangle of sheets, my body protesting the night's chill on old wounds. "Morning, soldier," he said, sliding a plate my way, his smile chasing the fog from my brain. 3 years, and it still hit me like the first time how this man, with his dog-eared copies of Walt Whitman and his unwavering faith in second chances, had seen past the uniform to the mess beneath. We ate on the porch swing, feet tangled, the newspaper folded open to the obituaries. Jimmy's had run last week, a 2-inch blurb that boiled his life down to dates and ranks. "Board meetings Thursday," I said finally, tracing the scar on his wrist from a childhood bike wreck. "Karen'll be there, loaded for bear." Michael's fork paused mid-air, syrup dripping slow. "Let her. We've got the bylaws on our side, religious gatherings, memorials, they're exempt." He was always the planner, the one who color-coded our calendar with Post-its, vet group Tuesdays in green, date night Fridays in red. But I knew better. Exempt or not, Willow Creek was old money laced with new prejudices, the kind that whispered about those people at wine tastings. I'd bought this split-level fixer-upper 2 years back, post-divorce from my ex-wife, the marriage of convenience that crumbled when I couldn't fake it anymore. Michael had helped paint the walls sky blue, hung curtains that let in light, turned it from a bunker into a home. Now, with the posse's laughter still echoing in my ears, I couldn't shake the feeling that Karen's clipboard was just the first salvo. That afternoon, I drove out to the VFW hall on the edge of town, the one with the leaky roof and the best chili in 5 counties. Preacher was there, polishing boots that hadn't seen polish since '09, his Bible open to Psalms 23. "Heard about your busybody," he grunted, handing me a coffee black as sin. "Jimmy'd say give her hell." Politely, of course. We talked then, real talk, about the nights the dreams came calling, about how Michael's patience was a lifeline I didn't deserve. Preacher nodded, eyes distant. "Love like that's rare, Benny. War takes, but it gives too, shows you what's worth the fight." By evening, the house felt too quiet without the posse's roar. Michael and I curled on the couch, some Netflix documentary on Stonewall flickering ignored, his head on my chest. "Promise me," he whispered, fingers interlacing with mine. "We don't let her win." I kissed his forehead, tasting salt from the day's sweat. "Promise." But as sleep claimed him, I stared at the ceiling cracks, wondering if promises held water against a tide of small-minded storms. Thursday crept up like a patrol in the wire, all tension and no release. The Willow Creek HOA board meeting was held in the community center, a sterile box of folding chairs and fluorescent buzz, the air thick with the scent of stale donuts and entitlement. I arrived early, Michael at my side in his best button-down, the one with the subtle pride stripe on the cuff he'd sewn himself. We'd printed copies of the bylaws, highlighted the exemptions for commemorative assemblies, and even drafted a letter from the VFW chaplain vouching for the memorial's legitimacy. Prep work, Marine style, recon, plan, execute. Karen was already there, perched at the front like a hawk on a wire, her posse of pearl clutchers nodding along to her whispers. She spotted us and straightened, that clipboard now a full binder, tabs color-coded for maximum passive aggression. "Gentlemen," she greeted, voice honey over gravel. "Glad you could make it. Wouldn't want any misunderstandings." The room filled slow, neighbors I'd nodded to over hedges, the ones who waved flags on porches but crossed streets when they saw my rainbow decal. Mr. Ellis from down the block, retired accountant with a "Don't Tread on Me" sticker, took a seat beside us, muttering, "Heard she called the cops on a kid's lemonade stand last month." "Crazy as a soup sandwich." Michael chuckled soft, but his knee bounced under the table, his tell when anxiety gnawed. The meeting kicked off with the usual drudgery. Pool hours, mailbox aesthetics, the eternal debate over holiday lights wattage. Then Karen stood, clearing her throat like a gavel. Item 7. Violations of guest policies at 147 Oak Ridge Lane. Slides clicked up on the projector, grainy photos of my backyard, zoomed on beer cans and the banner, time-stamped like evidence from a crime scene. Gasps rippled, murmurs like wind through pines. "This isn't neighborly," she declared. "It's disruptive. And frankly, a safety hazard with all those individuals milling about." "Individuals," Michael's voice cut in, polite but edged, rising without standing. Head swiveled. "You mean veterans? Men who served this country, honoring a fallen brother." The room hushed, the word veteran landing like a spent casing. Karen faltered, just a flicker, then recovered. "Be that as it may, Mr. Ellis." "Ramirez," Michael corrected, calm as a lecture hall. "And it's memorial, not mayhem. We've got documentation." He slid the folder across, bylaws flapping open. I watched her scan it, lips thinning, the posse behind her exchanging glances that said we just queered the narrative. Literally. "Mr. Ellis cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "I've seen the gatherings, Karen. Quiet respect, from what I could tell. My boy's a vet too, Afghan. If this is for Jimmy Harlan, God rest him, I say let it be." Nods spread, tentative, then firmer. The tide, shifting. Karen's cheeks flushed, that binder snapping shut like a trap. "This sets a precedent," she pressed, voice pitching higher. "Next it'll be block parties. Raves. Raves." I couldn't help it. A bark of laughter escaped, drawing stares. "Karen, there's a cookout for ghosts. If that's your idea of Armageddon, you need to get out more." Michael shot me a look, half warning, half pride, and the room chuckled, the tension cracking like ice. The vote came quick, motion tabled, no fines. Karen stormed out mid-adjournment, her heels clicking fury on linoleum. Outside, under the sodium lamps, Michael pulled me into a hug, his laugh muffled against my neck. "We did it, Ben." Teamwork. His body fit mine like it was made for it, warm, solid, the kind of safe that war never taught you existed. We walked home slow, hands brushing, the summer stars winking approval. For the first time since Fallujah, victory tasted sweet, not Pyrrhic. But victories in suburbia are fragile as China. The next week brought the emails. Anonymous forwards from concerned residents, CCING the board with concerns about property values and family-friendly atmospheres. One attached a photo of Michael and me at the grocery, loading kale and cat food. Captioned, "Is this the image we want?" I deleted them, but they burrowed. That old paranoia whispering I wasn't built for this. Nice houses, nice lives, nice loves. Michael noticed. Of course. He always did. Saturday morning, he dragged me to the farmer's market in Decatur, the one with fiddlers on corners and stalls heaped with heirloom tomatoes. Distraction therapy, he called it, popping a strawberry in my mouth, his fingers lingering on my lips. We wandered, sampling cheeses and dodging strollers, his arm slung casual around my waist when he thought no one watched. But they did. A mom with a double buggy, her stare lingering too long, or the vendor who shorted my change with a tight smile. "Ben," he said later, as we unpacked bags on the kitchen island, "talk to me. You're carrying this like it's your ruck again." I leaned against the counter, the cool granite grounding me. "It's nothing. Just reminders that not everyone's waving parades." He crossed the space in 2 steps, cupping my face, thumbs brushing stubble. "Hey, we're not in the sandbox. This is us, oat milk lattes and vet barbecues." Karen's one voice. "We've got a chorus." His kiss was soft, then deeper, the kind that erased borders, and for an hour, the world shrank to his hands on my hips, his breath mingling with mine. No rush, no armor, just Michael, unraveling me thread by thread. Afterward, tangled in sheets, he traced the tattoos snaking my ribs, Latin for semper fi, inked post-discharge, and murmured, "You're my hero. You know that? Not because of medals, but because you keep showing up." I held him tighter, chest aching with the weight of it. Love like this was a battlefield all its own, vulnerable, exposed, the enemy within more treacherous than any insurgent. But with him, I was learning to stand down, to trust the peace. The posse rolled in that evening for round 2 of the memorial, lighter now, the edge blunted by our win. Tommy brought his guitar, strumming Springsteen as the sun dipped, Lyle passing a flask of something illicit. Stories looped back to Jimmy, the time he conned a supply sergeant into extra ammo for a going-away party, or how he'd covered for me during my first blackout drunk after a close call. Michael fit seamless, fetching ice and laughing at the inside jokes, his presence a bridge between my fractured worlds. As embers died, Preacher pulled me aside by the fence, his voice gravel low. Heard whispers. "Benny." Karen's rallying signatures. Petition to review lifestyle covenants. My gut twisted. "On what grounds?" He shrugged, massive shoulders rolling. "The usual. Preserving community standards. But it's code, brother. For you too." I glanced at Michael, silhouetted against the fire, clapping along to Ruiz's off-key harmony, and the protectiveness surged, fierce as boot camp. "I'll handle it," I said, but Preacher's hand on my shoulder stopped me. "We all will. Jimmy taught us that. Posse sticks." He clapped my back, then rejoined the circle, leaving me with the night sounds, crickets, distant traffic, the soft thud of my heart. Michael caught my eye, mouthing, "You good?" I nodded, But the shadows lengthened, doubt creeping like fog off the river. That night, sleep evaded. Michael snored gentle beside me, one arm flung possessive over my waist. But my mind replayed the emails, the stares, Karen's pursed disdain. What if they pushed? What if the petition stuck? Forced us out, me, with my VA loan teetering, him with his tenure-track dreams? I slipped from bed, padding to the living room, the photo of Jimmy on the mantel staring back. What would you do, man? I whispered to the empty room. His grin mocked me, silent. Dawn broke gray, rain pattering the roof like Morse code. Michael found me there, coffee in hand, and curled into my side without question. Storm's passing, he said, though we both knew better. Outside, Willow Creek woke to slick streets and secrets, the kind that fester under perfect lawns. The petition hit like a frag grenade, and signed, slid under the door in a manila envelope while Michael was at school and I was elbow-deep in a carburetor at the garage. Citizens for a unified Willow Creek, it proclaimed, in crisp Arial, listing grievances, noise pollution, visual blight, erosion of traditional values. 30 signatures already, including half the block, and my gut punched, Mrs. Delgado next door, who'd baked us empanadas at Christmas. I sat on the stoop, rain soaking the paper to pulp, the words blurring like my vision. Michael came home to find me there, drenched and distant, the envelope a sodden flag of surrender in my lap. Ben? What happened? He knelt, umbrella forgotten, his hands framing my face, thumbs wiping rain, or was it tears? From my cheeks. I handed it over wordless, watching his expression cycle, confusion to hurt to that steely resolve he reserved for grading essays on civil rights failures. This is bullshit, he said finally, voice steady but eyes flashing. Bullshit with a capital B. We'll fight it. We did. That night over takeout lo mein, plotting like generals, emails to the board, calls to the ACLU hotline, even a counterpetition for inclusive community standards. Michael typed furious, his laptop glow casting shadows sharp as accusations, while I paced, phone glued to ear, rallying the posse. On it, Benny, Tommy growled. I'll get my crew signing vets from the shop. Families too. Preacher promised a prayer chain that sounded more like a war council. By midnight, we drafted a response, laced with legalese and love for this place we'd carved as ours. But sleep was a casualty. Michael tossed, murmuring half-formed protests in his dreams, and I stared at the ceiling, the rain a relentless drumbeat. Betrayal stung deepest, not Karen's venom, expected as monsoon, but the neighbors, the quiet nods turning to knives. Mrs. Delgado's empanadas, now poisoned. Ellis's vote, maybe coerced. It echoed the discharge, the don't ask, don't tell ghosts that lingered. Buddies who'd drift after my confession, superiors who'd look away. Love, turned out, was the ultimate recon, exposing the terrain, mine by mine. Friday brought a fragile truce. School let out early for teacher in service. So Michael surprised me at the garage with subs from that Italian joint on Moreland. We ate on a milk crate amid oil stains, his knee knocking mine, laughter forced but genuine over stories of his AP class's disastrous group project on the Stonewall riots. One kid thought it was about actual stones, he grinned, and for a moment, the petition faded, Willow Creek just a backdrop to us. Then my phone buzzed, Karen, of all people, Voicemail clipped. Benjamin, we need to talk. Privately. About the petition and your arrangement. My blood iced. Michael saw it, fork pausing. Don't go alone, but I waved him off. Recon. Remember, I'll report back. Lies. Maybe, but the old habit died hard. Shield the ones you love from the shrapnel. Her house was a shrine to suburbia, floral chintz. Cross-stitched, bless this mess. A husband absent as a ghost. She ushered me in stiff. Offering weak tea I declined. Sit, she said, perching opposite like an interrogator. The binder was out again. Thicker. Pages dog-eared. This isn't personal, Benjamin. But Willow Creek has standards. Families. And you, she hesitated, eyes flicking to my ringless hand. You and Michael. Progressive. But not everyone shares that vision. Vision. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, the tea steaming ignored. Karen, we're not redecorating your picket fence. We're living quiet, taxes paid, lawn mowed. Jimmy's memorial was one night. What's the real beef? Her gaze hardened, then cracked. Just a hair. It's the example. My daughter, she's impressionable. Sees things. And the values, Christian values. There it was. The code cracked. I softened. Not pity, but recognition, the fear masquerading as righteousness. The same that sent kids to war with Bibles and rifles. Karen, I'm Christian too. Baptist. Raised. Served with men who'd pray before patrols. But love, that's not a threat. It's the point. She blinked, teacup rattling. You don't understand. The petitions for protection. Protection from what? Us. I stood, the room shrinking. Look, sign or not, we're not moving. But hate, that erodes faster than any values. I left her there, steam curling like unanswered questions, the door clicking soft behind me. Michael was waiting, pacing the kitchen, a beer cracked for each of us. Well, I pulled him close, burying my face in his hair, inhaling the faint cedar of his shampoo. She's scared. Of change. Of us. He nodded against my chest, arms wrapping tight. And we're staying. Petition be damned. We stood like that, rain easing to mist outside, his heartbeat sinking mine, a rhythm war couldn't touch. The weekend blurred into action. The posse mobilized, Tommy's shop crew canvassed, stickers slapped on bumpers, Willow Creek welcomes all vets. Preacher held an impromptu barbecue at the VFW, inviting neighbors, his sermons swapped for stories of shared service. Michael and I hosted a unity night, casseroles, no agenda, just faces around the fire pit. Some came wary, others warm, Mrs. Delgado arrived last, eyes downcast, a Tupperware of flan in hand. Lo siento, Benjamin. Pressure. Family. I hugged her fierce. Water under the bridge. Senora. By Sunday. Signatures flipped. 50 to our 30. A tide turned. Karen's petition faltered. Withdrawn at the emergency board session. Her voice thin as she cited miscommunications. Victory laps felt hollow. Though the fractures lingered, trust a casualty. That night, Michael and I drove to the Chattahoochee, the river Jimmy loved, its waters black under moon. We spread a blanket, uncorked wine from his Fancy stash. Stars pricking the sky like distant flares. To us, he toasted, clinking plastic cups, his free hand tracing my jaw. The unbreakable. I kissed him then, slow and deep, the river murmuring approval, his body yielding soft under mine. Not passion's blaze, but love's quiet burn, healing what words couldn't. We talked till dawn crept, dreams deferred, like my half-assed novel on desert nights, his push for a podcast on queer history. We'll make it, he said, head on my lap, fingers toying with my tags. Posse strong, but as he dozed, I watched the current, swift and unforgiving, wondering if currents always won. Monday shattered the calm. A call from preacher, voice cracking. Benny, it's Tommy. Wreck on 85 semi-jackknifed. He's gone. The world funneled. Sound tinny. Michael's hand on my shoulder distant as a memory. Tommy Ruiz, the whistler, the fixer, gone in a skid of rain-slick asphalt. No IED, no enemy fire, just mundane cruelty. The posse converged that night, faces hollow, beers untouched. Michael brewed coffee strong, moved silent among us, a ghost in his own home. Stories choked out, Tommy's garage pranks, his niece's quinceanera he'd DJ'd. I spoke last, voice raw, he was the glue after Jimmy. Kept us rolling, silence fell, heavy as earth. Michael found me later on the porch, rain renewed. Ben, he knelt, forehead to mine. I'm here, I broke then, sobs racking, his arms the only shore. Love, in grief's grip, wasn't armor, it was the wound, and the mend. Tommy's funeral was a blur of khaki and condolences, the chapel in East Atlanta packed with grease-stained hands and teary families. The posse stood sentinel, shoulders brushing like sentries, Michael's tie askew from hugging Tommy's sister. I delivered the eulogy, words scripted on a crumpled napkin. Ruiz was the guy who'd hotwire a tank for a laugh, but he'd give you his last MRE if you were hungry. He fixed more than cars, he fixed us. Applause was wrong, so we clapped backs instead, the air thick with unspoken rage at fate's indifference. Back home, Willow Creek felt alien, its manicured lawns mocking our wreckage. Karen appeared on the doorstep that afternoon, tentative in khakis, a casserole in oven-mitt hands. I heard. I'm sorry, her eyes darted, avoiding mine. The petition that was before. If there's anything, I took the dish, steam rising like truce flags. Thanks. Means something. Michael, hovering behind, nodded polite, but his jaw set, forgiveness a bridge, not blind. The days after were a slog, grief a rucksack too heavy for civilian shoulders. Work blurred, engines under my hands, but my mind revved on Tommy's laugh, Jimmy's grin. Michael tiptoed, leaving notes, lunch in fridge, love you, his classroom anecdotes a lifeline over dinner. But cracks showed, my nightmares louder, his patience thinning when I'd snap over misplaced keys. I'm trying, Ben, he'd say, voice frayed, but you gotta let me in. One night, it boiled over. I'd come home late from the VFW, reeking of smoke and sorrow, collapsing on the couch without a word. Michael stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Talk to me. Please. I rubbed my face, exhaustion a tide. What's to say? 2 brothers gone, and I'm still here, pretending normal. He knelt, Fierce. It's not pretend. It's us. Fighting for mornings. For this. His hand on my knee. Insistent. But you shut down. Then. Like I'm the enemy. The words landed like friendly fire. You're not. I choked, pulling him close. You're the only good. We clung. Apologies unspoken. His tears wetting my shirt. Love's fragility hit hard then. Not fireworks, but embers, needing constant tending lest they gutter. Preacher called midweek. Voice urgent. Benny, got a lead. Tommy's widow says he was meeting someone before the crash. Sketchy texts. About old debts. My hackles rose. Combat sense tingling. Debts? Ruiz was clean, but doubt seeded. We met at the VFW that night. The posse huddled over printouts. Messages from an unknown number. Vague. Payment due. Meet at the overpass. Tommy's reply, can't. Posse knows. Drugs. Lal whispered, but I shook my head. Nah. Something else. Michael, scrolling his phone, paled. Ben. Look, a photo attached to one text. Tommy and a face I knew, SGT. Harlan Hawk Jenkins, Jimmy's old CO, dishonorably discharged post-war for conduct unbecoming. Rumors swirled. Gambling rings. Blackmail on vulnerable vets. He was shaking down Tommy, Michael said, horror dawning. For what Jimmy owed, the pieces slotted ugly. Jimmy's cancer treatments, VA waitlists, bills piling like sandbags. He'd borrowed from Hawk, the snake who'd preyed on squad stragglers back in country. Tommy, loyal to the end, covering for him silent. He died running from ghosts. I growled, fist slamming table. The posse erupted, plans to confront, to expose, but Michael stayed my arm. Careful, Ben. This could drag us all under. We dug deeper. Nights lost to burner phones and dive bar stakeouts. Michael, ever the historian, cross-referenced records. Hawk's court-martials dodged. His consulting firm a front for vet-targeted loans at usury rates. It's a racket, he said, laptop aglow, his passion fierce as any foxhole. Our bond deepened in the hunt. Late coffees. Shared maps. His head on my shoulder as we pieced the puzzle. You're brilliant, I murmured once, kissing his temple. He blushed, hazel eyes soft. Team, remember, but betrayal's shadow lengthened. One lead pointed to Willow Creek, Hawk spotted at a property showing. Sniffing for investments. Karen's realtor friend? Coincidence? Paranoia bloomed. I scanned neighbors' glances, wondered who else carried Hawk's taint. Michael sensed it, pulling me earthward. Focus on us, Ben. The rest we'll dismantle. Climax brewed that Saturday. A tip from Preacher. Hawk holed up in a motel off 285. Meeting clients. The posse geared, no guns. Just resolve, and rolled out at dusk. Michael insisting on shotgun. Not leaving you to this alone. The motel was a squat concrete scar. Neon flickering vacancy like a lie. We stormed the door, while kicking it wide. Hawk scrambling up from a bed strewn with ledgers. You blood-sucking leech, I snarled. Ledger snatched. Pages spilling accusations. Names. Debts. Tommy's at top. Hawk sneered. Weaselly in boxers. Business. Caldwell. War's over. Survival ain't free. Michael stepped forward. Voice steel. It is when you prey on brothers. The confrontation crackled. Fists clenched, words volleyed like rounds, until preacher's phone lit with sirens. Cops, anonymous tip. We scattered. Ledgers clutched. Hearts pounding. Back home, adrenaline crashed. Michael and I collapsing on the porch. Breaths ragged. We got him, he panted. Hand in mine. Evidence enough for the DA. I pulled him close. Kiss fierce with relief. His lips tasting of justice and juniper gum. Couldn't without you. In that moment, love wasn't abstract, it was the spark that ignited the charge. But dawn brought the backlash. Hawk's call. Blocked number. You think this ends? I've got friends, deep pockets, deeper grudges. The threat hung. But so did our win. Charges filed Monday. DA's office buzzing with vet advocate heat. The posse toasted quiet. Tommy's photo raised. Jimmy's shadow lighter. Yet doubt lingered. A splinter. Michael's distance grew. Late nights grating. Phone angled away. Just work, he'd say. But his eyes evaded. I chalked it to stress. Buried in Hawk's fallout. Depositions. Press sniffing for hero vet takedown. Willow Creek thawed slow. Even Karen nodded at the mailbox. Her good work clipped but real. One evening, walking the block, Michael stopped under a street lamp, face shadowed. Ben, we need to talk. My heart seized, old fears roaring. About, he exhaled, hand trembling as he pulled an envelope from his jacket. This came last week. Inside, a job offer, principal at a school in Charleston, tenure, raise, escape from Atlanta's churn. They headhunted me. Perfect. The world tilted. Betrayal's bitter edge. And us? You were gonna spring this now? Hurt flared. Hot. After everything? He reached. Desperate. It's not leaving you, it's building. Better schools for the kids we talk about. Stability. Kids. The dream we'd whispered post-wine. Vague and vast. But timing? Post-Tommy. Post-Hawk, it felt like flight. I need air, I muttered. Stalking home. Door slamming echo of Karen's that first night. Alone. Grief compounded. Brothers lost. Now this? Love's fragility. Cracked wide. The envelope burned a hole in the kitchen drawer. Charleston's promise mocking me over breakfasts gone silent. Michael tried flowers from the market. Extra touches in passing. But the rift widened. Conversations clipped to weather and chores. Ben. Please. He'd plead. Hazel eyes pleading mirrors of my own fracture. It's not an ultimatum, but it felt like one. The old war wound of abandonment throbbing. Squad mates ghosting post coming out. Ex-wives, I can't do this echoing. I threw into work. Garage bays echoing with torque wrenches. The posse's check-ins a bomb. Preacher dropped by midweek. Massive frame dwarfing the office chair. Heard about the offer. Talked to him yet. I wiped grease from hands, avoiding his gaze. What's to say? He wants out. Fancy title. Ocean views. I'm just the anchor. Preacher chuckled low. Bible slapping his knee. Anchors keep ships steady. Son. Storms pass. His words lingered. But so did doubt. Hawk's trial looming like thunderhead. The courtroom was a zoo. Reporters clustered like flies. Vets in the gallery, a wall of camo solidarity. Hawk slouched at the defense table. Suit ill-fit. Eyes darting venom. Testimony dragged. Widows recounting harassment. Ledgers dissected like autopsies. Michael's hand found mine under the bench. Squeeze fierce. But tension hummed, his free fingers drumming, gaze fixed forward. Then the bomb. Prosecution's star witness. A shaky vet named Ellis. My neighbor Ellis. The don't tread guy who'd voted for us. I signed debts too, he stammered, face ashen. Hawk had photos, me and my partner. From back in the day. Blackmail. The room gasped. Pieces cascading. The petition signatures. Coerced. Willow Creek's fractures. Hawk's web. Karen's realtor link. A thread pulled. Michael stiffened beside me, knuckles white. He knew, I whispered. Ellis met my eyes, regret carving deep. Feared losing everything. Home, respect, betrayal layered, neighbor to neighbor, but human, frail. Hawk's lawyer pounced, but the damage stuck. The jury's faces hardened. Verdict swift. Guilty. 15 years. Outside, flashbulbs popped. Mike's thrust. Mr. Caldwell, how's this for Willow Creek? I pulled Michael close, his body rigid. Healing. One truth at a time. But his smile for the cameras was tight. The drive home silent as fallout. That night, the dam broke. Dinner uneaten. He paced the living room, envelope clutched. Ellis. Could have been us. Hawks reach photos. Threats. Charleston. Is safety. Then. A fresh grid. I stood. Voice cracking. Safety or escape. From me. From this. Gesturing wild. The house. The scars. After Tommy. Jimmy we fight. Michael. Not flee. His face crumpled. Tears tracking. I'm scared. Okay. Of losing you to this place, to the Karens. The Hawks. The job. It's a net. For our future kids. Picket fences. The American dream we'd sketched in whispers. But dreams deferred felt like dreams denied. I love you, he choked, stepping close, hands fisting my shirt. But love's not enough if it's chains. The kiss was desperate, salt sour, bodies colliding like wreckage. We stumbled to the bedroom, not lust but lifeline, skin to skin, breaths ragged, reaffirming in the tangle what words warred against. Afterward, spent and spent, he curled into me, whisper fierce, don't let me go. I held tighter, but dawn brought no clarity, only the ache of choices unmade. The posse sensed the storm, converging uninvited that weekend for debrief. Beers cracked, fire pit roaring, stories veering to Hawk's fall. Tommy's widow shared, voice steady, he died free you're doing. Gratitude swelled. But when Michael stepped out for air, preacher cornered me. He's good for you, Benny. Rare as hen's teeth. Don't let pride sink the ship. Pride or fear. I mulled it trailside later. Michael beside. The Chattahoochee murmuring below. Remember our first fight? He said soft. Pebbles skipping under his toss. Bar. Post-nightmare. You bolted. I chased. I nodded. Memory sharp, his Prius idling. Headlights cutting fog. Worth chasing. He turned. Eyes searching. Am I still? The question hung. Rivers rush underscoring. Always. But the envelope loomed. Charleston's call a siren's song. Back home. I rifled drawers. Finding not just the offer but a folder, Michael's. Thick with clippings. Queer foster programs. Adoption stats. Schools with ally clubs. For us, A note read, his script. Heart cracked wide, he'd planned, not plotted. Monday, I called the DA, volunteering for victim advocate, channeling grief to guardrails for others. Michael beamed over coffee, pride softening lines. That's my Ben. But the offer sat, undiscussed, a ghost at table. Karen's olive branch came unexpected. A card in mail, proud of Willow Creek's stand. Coffee, we met at the diner, booths sticky with history. I was wrong, she admitted, stirring sugar endless. Hawk. He twisted arms, mine included. Your fight, it woke us. Vulnerability. Daughters at college now, studying poli-sci. Says you're heroes. I laughed. Bittersweet. Just men. Karen. Loving loud. She nodded. Tentative bridge built. Driving home. Radio crooning Dylan. The times they are a-changin'. I gripped the wheel. Resolve hardening. Love wasn't flight. It was roots. Digging deep. That evening, Michael home late. I waited with wine. Envelope on counter. Read it again, I said, pouring. He hesitated, then did, brow furrowing. Ben. I go. The word freed us both. If it's your dream, chase it. I'll visit. Weekends. Whatever. But our future? It's not pinned to one zip code. Shock. Then tears, his mind mingling as he lunged across. Kiss sealing the pact. No. Not without you. We talked till stars wheeled. Compromises, me remote consulting. Him hybrid teaching. Charleston as chapter. Not end. Relief flooded. But betrayal's echo lingered. Not Michael's, but mine. To doubt. In bed. Limbs entwined. He whispered. We're the posse. Then. Unbreakable. Sleep came easy. Dreams of rivers. Not deserts. Yet fate. Capricious. Twisted once more. A week later. Preacher's call. Jimmy's effects. Box from storage. Hawk pawned him. We retrieved it. Dog tags. Letters. A journal. Jimmy's scrawl. Confessions of debts. Love for a squadmate unnamed. Me? No. But the parallel stung. He carried silent. Michael read. Voice hushed. Like we all do. The find catalyzed. A memorial addendum. Posse-wide. Sharing burdens. Stories poured. PTSD logs. Debt diaries. Healing. Communal. But Michael's phone buzzed mid-circle. Face draining. Charleston, they need an answer. Deadline. Tomorrow. The fire dimmed. Shadows long. The circle broke late. Embers cold. The journal's weight in my lap a talisman. Michael drove home silent. Knuckles white on wheel. Charleston's specter between us. Ben. He started at red lights, then stopped. Words trapped. Covered his hand. Tomorrow. Together. He nodded. Squeezed desperate. The Prius humming like a held breath. Dawn found us on the porch swing. Coffee steaming. Envelope open between. Pros. Stability. Coast. Growth. He listed. Teacher mode. Cons. Distance. Uprooting. I traced his palm. Scars faint. And us. His eyes met mine. Raw. The pro that matters. We waited. Calls to realtors. VA transfer chats. Logistics a ladder out of limbo. By noon. His email sent. Acceptance. With stipulations. Delayed start. spousal support. We're moving, he said, grin tentative. Both of us. Relief warred with grief. Willow Creek's oaks. The garage banter. Posse's fire pit. Anchors severed. But Michael's light, undimmed, pulled stronger. New chapter, I agreed, kissing him fierce under the swings creek. Semper Fi, always faithful. Packing blurred weeks. Boxes labeled kitchen ghosts. Garage sale chaos. The posse threw a send-off. Backyard epic, steak searing. Lyle's psalms swapped for toasts. To Benny and Teach, Tommy's widow raised. Fixing what breaks. Laughter flowed. Tears unchecked. Preacher prayed parting. May rivers lead you home. Karen appeared last. Pie in hand. Hug awkward but real. Willow Creek's lesser without you. Visit. Her daughter waved from afar. Pride pin glinting, change. Rippling. The drive east was Odyssey. I-85 to 95. Playlists of Springsteen and Jimmy's karaokes. Stops at diners for pie and promises. Michael narrated history, battle sites, civil rights markers, his voice weaving past to present. We're part of it, he said at a Fort Sumter overlook. Wind whipping. Love as revolution. I pulled him close. Atlantic vast. Damn right. Charleston welcomed soft. Spanish moss veils. Rainbow flags on porches. A bungalow by the battery with a yard for dreams. Michael's school buzzed. Kids eager. Halls alive. I hung my shingle. Vet consultant. Remote rigs for rebuilds. The posse's network a lifeline. Nights. We walked battery walls. Hands linked. Ghosts of wars past fading. But roots take time. Nightmares chased me south. Fallujah flares. Tommy's skid. Michael's arms the tether. Tell me, he'd urge. Dawn lit. I did. Fragments. The rollovers crush. Jimmy's coughs. Hawk's sneer. His stories countered classroom triumphs. A student's coming out courage. You're teaching me, I murmured once. Post-confession. His body warm curve. To heal. Betrayal's final ghost surfaced autumn. A letter from Hawk's cell. Smudged pleas for forgiveness. War broke us all. I burned it on the beach. Michael's hand in mine. Flames devouring. Forgiven, he said. But not forgotten. Humanistic grace, not absolution, but release. Winter brought wonder. Holiday lights on the harbor. Posse video calls with eggnog toasts. Spring. A call from preacher. Willow Creek's changing, ally resolution passed. Karen's doing. Whispers said. We visited summer. Fire pit reconvened. Stories looping eternal. One evening. Battery bench. Sunset gilding waves. Michael knelt. Ring box velvet. Ben Caldwell. You're my battle one. My peace. Marry me? Tears blurred. Yes, roaring. The posse hooped virtual. Jimmy's photo beamed in. Wedding was small. Beachside. Vets in kilts. Michael's vows poet Whitman echoes. I celebrate myself. And sing the body electric, yours, ours. Mine simpler. Semper Fi. Forever. Rings exchanged. Kiss sealed under gull's cry. Years folded. Adoption papers signed. A boy named Harlan Ruiz Caldwell. Curls like Tommy's. Questions endless. Daddy Ben. Tell the story. I'd spin, posse tales. Tempered true. Michael adding flourishes. Our love the spine. Willow Creek faded to memory. But lessons etched. Conflict forges. Betrayal bends but doesn't break. Romance, the quiet valor. In Charleston's hum, with Michael's laugh and our son's chase, I knew home wasn't place, but Posse, the unbreakable us. Humanity's arc, bent toward justice, love the lever. And in that, grace abundant,